India HR Conclave 2025, an initiative by One Finance.
In a fast-changing world of work, where talent is capital, India's top industry leaders gathered at the India HR Conclave in Bengaluru. More than just a meetup, it was a space to challenge norms, share insights, and reimagine leadership and transformation. From legacy giants to agile startups, the conclave sparked bold conversations that pushed the boundaries of modern HR. The day began with Shalini Lal, founder of Uncube, sharing powerful insights on the psychology of future readiness, what it takes for Indian organizations to lead in a changing world.
A feature of how our brains evolved is that when presented with messy complexity and a coherent story, our brains pick the coherent story every single time, even if the messy complexity is far more real. We crave simplicity and we crave control. But this illusion of control may be our most dangerous blind spot of all. The truth is far messier. Strategic planning isn't worthless, by the way. I would say far from it. All the signals that we need to understand our future, they exist somewhere, if we look for them. But most of the time, we in our organizations are so busy with our quarterly targets, our annual targets, our fires for the day because the company is going to go under if that fire is not put out, that we have no bandwidth to see that. And that's my wish for all of you here. With that understanding, to be able to spot the weak signals in our environment and lead your organizations to a much more meaningful, much more real level of psychological health. With that, thank you very much.
The first panel explored personal branding and its alignment with company identity, how individual voices can complement, not conflict with, a brand's vision.
Thank you so much for joining me today to navigate this social media circus. This level of personal brand exposure that the C-suite executives or the CEOs indulge in, is it worth the risk?
Absolutely, it's worth it. Mubina, your people are watching you. Your people are watching you. Your investors are watching you. And your prospective customers are watching you. In today's world where visibility leads to more trust leads to more business. So in a way, it's a short way to get more business when you build your personal brand as a CEO and show up on the internet.
But don't you think then that makes you, in a way, indispensable to the company too? Because Rishabh, for example, you started off as being the face of labor law advisors. So tomorrow, if you're not there, do your investors, stakeholders, customers lose trust in the business?
Over the years, I've realized that people do not connect with companies and organizations the way they connect with people and brand. That's why on socials, you will find that it's super hard to grow a company's page rather than growing a personal page. We are in sort of this age of social media. Nobody wants to connect with labor law advisor. They either want to connect with Rishabh, Mandeep, Andy, someone who has a face, a voice, an opinion, someone they can find on the street and maybe like throw a taunt at him or maybe appreciate him.
Do you think the rules with respect to a personal brand for the employee and the branding that the larger employer has, do you think the rules are different depending on the size of companies? So for example, for Tata, they would be more stringent, more strict. They have literally a department that's into brand conservation versus perhaps a smaller company. Anybody can take that up.
The smaller company, the startup, would have a lot of human connection involved into it, a lot of storytelling where people can connect easily, as Rishabh mentioned in his journey, where people can really connect with the small team, with the founders. Whereas in a big brand, I believe you just miss that essence. You don't get that connect with the brand.
Yeah.
That's it.
There is a power when a CEO of a big organization even speaks to his mind and shares what he truly believes. Of course, it can backfire sometimes, but a CEO also is ultimately a person and people connect with persons, not the company.
I think new I think I always look at new age media versus old media. Old media wants to be cool, new media wants to be more like old. The same applies for small companies trying to feel like we are very big, big companies trying we are very small and we are very cool on the social. I think it never works. It will never work. The more you try to say a Tata, like how many companies like Tata exist? I mean, they have like what, 9 lakh, 8 lakh employees. I think Wipro has 2.5 lakh. So if you remove all the 10, rest everyone has less than 20,000, 10,000 employees, right? For all of them, just do what a 50 size team would do. And that will work all the time over the random compliance-led social media strategy or personal branding strategy that we'll do.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us in a very thought-provoking and engaging discussion.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
A midday breathwork and meditation session by Astha Gupta, founder of Still, offered attendees a pause for reflection, highlighting the growing need for mental clarity and emotional balance in today's fast-paced work environments.
Yogic psychology has a total of 5 states of mind. And this is basically dependent on the number of thoughts that we have in our mind at a given point of time. So when you have 2,000 thoughts a minute or 10,000 thoughts a minute, you will feel like your mind is in a shift state, shipta, scattered. I feel anxious, distracted, out of control. As you reduce the number of thoughts a little bit, we go higher on this state of mind line as per yoga. The next one is mudha. I feel dull, depressed, lazy. If you go further in, you say gathering, vikshipta. I have fleeting moments of motivation, but I can't focus for too long. Further down, if you reduce the thoughts, now let's say they've come to 100 thoughts a minute. This is when you feel ekagra. I can concentrate on the task at hand. And if you further go deeper, you reach a place of feeling still, where the mind is empty, and this is what we often call the state of flow also. So when we talk of mental health, especially as in the context of employee well-being, what we're talking of is a state which feels peaceful, happy, productive. And as per yoga psychology, that is nothing but a concentrated mind. And how do we get there? Obviously, we still the body through those poses, then we still the breath through something, and then we still the mind. Increasingly, in the kind of age that we're living in, where there is so much digital overload, being able to get yourself and your team to have a quiet mind is going to truly be your superpower, which is why I say that calm is truly going to be the new productivity. We're in a space where if we can get uninterrupted, focused, deep work done, single tasking on one thing, we will be really good at what we do. Gear towards that as an individual and as a company, I think we will be truly impacting the bottom line. Thank you very much and have a really still day.
Next up was the 70-90-hour work week debate. Is it a growth driver or a burnout trap? Leaders shared perspectives on ambition, output, and the real cost of hustle.
Now, India's competitive job market is very, very tough. And the startup culture, hustle culture, that is putting a lot of pressure on the working hours, which is beyond imagination. When we say that long working hours, people say that, yes, he's very committed. But on the other side, maybe inefficient, maybe just show off. So why the companies are promoting the presentism instead of productivity?
And I think that's something for all of us to reflect as well, right? I don't think it's a badge of honor that you're working for so long hours. It's also, see, life has a lot of other aspects, right? Career is definitely one of my aspects, but my family, my social aspect, my other aspirations as well, right? And, I think we only talk about mental health, well-being when something is visibly broken. What if it was part of our culture? What if it was the foundation of everything that we do? We say joy, well-being is a luxury. We will think about once we are profitable, once we are of a certain size, maybe only Tatas can think about it, or certain large organization. And here we are struggling, right? So we don't think about, what if we made it as a fabric of life, of everything that we do? Because that is important from a business perspective also, not just as a good thing to do.
There is a dichotomy as well, but it actually helps. So on the one side, if you are not out of your comfort, if there is no stress, you don't grow personally. Okay, that's one thing to accept, but that will come at a certain cost. Okay, and how do you then manage the cost becomes efficiency. So are companies investing radically behind execution as a skill? Do we have the tools? Sometimes they don't. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why people are burning out, because you're using outdated skills, or maybe not upgrading your skills, or maybe you're not using the right tools to execute. So, you're taking more time unnecessarily to be able to do the same work. That's a problem. And therefore, in some way, whether we like it or not, it becomes imperative on us to drive a certain efficiency within us, which is, do we eat well? Do we sleep well? Are we physically active? Do we sit in chairs? Why is it so difficult for each one to say, no, I want a 15-minute break? Okay. So change some of that narrative becomes very important for us.
After Corona, it seems that we are struggling. All the CEOs, founders, MDs are struggling to bring the people back, and we are thinking to send them back at home after office hours. What one thing you will say that, yes, this can be done so that people can go home early, on time?
See, we have to see the structure very differently. When the industrial revolution happened, don't you feel your schools and factories look very same? We have trained our workforce for working in factories. We have still not upgraded our system. If you see, we spend about 80% of our waking hours in working in office. See, our first priority is not us. That's the problem. We are disconnected from ourselves. We need to connect with ourselves. Working is not important. Hours are only a dimension. It's only a dimension, one of a few dimensions. If you are working in a flow, time doesn't matter. Efficiency is important. The state of flow has to be achieved, and it can only be achieved when I align my purpose and my passion together.
Thank you very much. It was a nice interaction.
India HR Conclave 2025, an initiative by One Finance. India HR Conclave 2025, an initiative by One Finance.
The third panel focused on inclusion, showing how diverse, welcoming workplaces are not just fair, but also fuel innovation and success.
Companies have the intent. They want to diversify their workforce. It is, at the end, something that will be beneficiary to the bottom line. But where do you think, is there a gap between the intent and the actual execution?
I think when you ask me about where the gaps are, I think the gap is from our expectation. It's going to be something that requires individuals to fully believe in it, and it cannot be enforced by a policy, or it cannot be encoded in any way, or there can't be a quota system per se, especially when it comes to diversity. In One Finance, we have 50% women in our leadership team, and we didn't set out a policy saying that, we have to have 50% or more women in our leadership team. It naturally happened because we were conscious and honest with ourselves about what the role requires. Diversity for our stage of the organization isn't the first most important priority, but as leaders, we have it at the back of our minds, and we are definitely conscious of our decision making.
This topic and this idea, I think, has been beaten to death. We keep talking about it, we keep revisiting it time and again, and only to go back and say that yes, blind spots still exist, okay? And the most important thing with blind spots is that there's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen. Unfortunately, in organizations, the focus has been on learning the new things, learning how to do this differently. But pre-existing biases, pre-existing stereotypes in managers and leaders, the way to address that is there has to be unlearning.
Inclusion and diversity. At least one thing that I've understood is inclusion and diversity goes way beyond male, female, and disabled and non-disabled people. I've had the Mirajoy co-founder, his parents are tailors, right? So he today is sitting on a 500 crore company, but he was just also an accidental entrepreneur like me. And he ensured that, okay, he saw talent in people from every sector. तो मेरे ड्राइवर का बेटा एक दिन ऑफिस आ गया था उनके साथ, तो उसने कन्नड़ा में बुलाया, इधर आ, तो क्या तेरे को कन्नड़ा आता है? ठीक है, लिखने आता है, वीडियो एडिटिंग सीखेगा, चल 1 महीने का इंटर्नशिप ले ले। 3 महीने में उसने उसको कन्वर्ट करके एक जॉब दे दी। So the person who was making 5,000 at a bakery today is drawing a 25,000 rupee salary. And he did that with the watchman's son. He did that with the maid's son, and ensured that the team also that they work with, they feel that, hey, इसके साथ हम ये हमारे जैसा ही आदमी है। So I think from that perspective, I believe inclusion can be from every part. In fact, they work more harder. You know, if you can, it's not a necessity, of course. As you said, we have to find the right people. But agar if you get a young person and you train them early on skills that you can leverage, I think, I don't know if this is the right way to say, don't get me wrong if it comes out wrong. It's like a penny stock. If it gives the return, it booms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well said, very well said, and thank you so much. This was indeed something, a lot of food for thought for all of us.
The final panel explored continuous learning, how upskilling boosts personal growth, sparks innovation, and strengthens organizations for the long haul.
Today we are going to be talking about not just upskilling, but transformation. To start with, let's talk about the top future skills.
So I would let go of this part that let's try to predict the skills of the future. Rather, why don't we say what's not going to change in the future for sure, right? That's the simplest way to address it. Okay. And what's not going to change are some of the more foundational things. And I think those become even more important every time there is a new short life skill set in the market. For example, many of us here, or you know people who were coding in C++. That was the hot new thing back then. Put it on your resume, see how many job offers do you get now, right? So it's, especially with technology, the fact is any skill set which can be certified is going to be extremely short-lived. The shelf life is super short. So if we try to predict the skills of the future, we're trying to predict future at best for 12 months. That's not the future we're trying to predict here, right? So it's much better. I would say the question to ask here becomes, which skill sets are not going to change, which personal traits are not going to change, and what kind of people do I want in my organization?
But I know that you believe that it should go hand in hand. Work, learning, courses, etc. should all go hand in hand. I want to get your opinion on that.
See, learning and work, I don't understand why they are kept separately. We typically want to learn from other people so that we can apply it in our own way. So at GrowthX, for example, what we do is we don't really want to focus about, let's say, a skill set, or maybe it's a hard skill, soft skill, doesn't matter. But the most important part is how do you surround yourself with like-minded people who you are going to be like, oh, wow, that's an interesting perspective. Why didn't I think about that?
Sunita, how do you create a culture of continuous learning in the organization?
Well, primarily training and learning are different to a large extent. They may have some common elements, but training is like event-based. You have a 2-day training, 3-day training, or you have a 1-hour training every day for a few days. Learning is lifelong. And as you rightly said, learning is often from your supervisors, from your colleagues, even from your juniors. If you see success, if you like something somebody is doing, you always go up to the person to learn. When we join our new jobs, we are unsure of what to do. I mean, we have just studied, not learned the methodology, the work that we have to do. You may have a sympathetic boss who would help you learning, who would help you to learn and also show by example when he's learning himself. But you may have an unsympathetic boss who just dismisses you. They are not so common now, but in my time they were very common.
Arun, what are the other barriers or hesitation, reluctance, whatever word you want to use, that come in when you are, wanting to upskill your people?
I think there is I think the biggest one is the personal intent. So don't be a dinosaur. I think the big one is there is a clear 80-20 in terms of folks who are adopting to the change. The change is happening now. In this case, it is a AI which has come, but the change is happening. So the ability to adopt is what is, there's an 80-20 over there, right? So for example, and things are also changing so fast that what is happening is that if, say for example, if you are not able to use, say, a Copilot to code, earlier you can actually know Java and then can be around for like 12-13 years and still you will be able to know the context, etc., and do it. But now, say if you are coming at a entry level, not knowing this will make you redundant very, very fast.
Thank you so much to all of you for joining us.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to turn our focus on celebrations, when we get together to honor and celebrate and acknowledge the individuals and organizations that have set new benchmarks in people's strategy, innovation, and leadership. All right, so our first category is Social Impact Award, and the winner is, let's hear it up for Rangaday. This category has another winner. Please put your hands together for Milap. Quickly moving on to our next category, which is Divyang Inclusion Award. Winner is Lemon Tree Hotels. Up next, we have the category called Innovative Company Award, and the winner is, all hands put together, for Jar App. Quickly move on to the next category, which is Skill First Employer Award, and the winner in the category Skill First Employer Award is Vision Net Systems. Now it's time to move on to the next category, which is Talent Acquisition Leader Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Gloria Davis. Please keep the applause going as we invite onto the stage the next winner in the Talent Acquisition Leader category, and that is Prabhakar Jaiswal. So our next category is Thought Leader of the Year Award, and the winner is Rajesh Pal. And now we move on to the last but not the least category for the conclave, which is Women Leader of the Year Award. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to cheer for Aparna Sharma. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to draw curtains on this very special edition of India HR Conclave 2025.
India HR Conclave 2025, an initiative by One Finance.